Your most intimate memories are currently trapped behind a glass screen, waiting to be deleted by a software update. We live in an age where connection is instant. Messages fly across continents in milliseconds. Yet somehow, intimacy feels thinner than ever. Digital pings give us the illusion of closeness, but they rarely leave a mark on the body or the mind. Because here's something fascinating. Your brain doesn't treat a handwritten letter the same way it treats a text message. Ink on paper carries weight, neurological, emotional, even sensory weight. And in a paperless world obsessed with speed, choosing to write by hand has become something radical, almost rebellious. Tonight, we're exploring why tangible vulnerability, the simple act of writing a love letter, might be one of the last ways to preserve real human connection in an algorithm-driven world. The digital erosion of presence instant messaging was supposed to make communication easier, and it did. But it also quietly rewired our expectations of time, attention, and emotional investment. When you send a message, you expect a reply almost immediately. The ticking, typing easy indicator creates a false urgency, a sense that every interaction must happen now. Psychologically, this constant immediacy trains the brain to value speed over depth. We respond faster, but we think less. Words become disposable because they can be rewritten endlessly. Then there's ghosting, a phenomenon unique to digital communication. When silence happens in person or through letters, it carries context. But online, silence is ambiguous, and that ambiguity triggers anxiety loops in the brain. Read receipts intensify this. They turn communication into a performance metric, proof of attention withheld or granted. Compare that to a physical letter. A page doesn't flicker, it doesn't notify, it doesn't disappear into an endless scroll. It simply exists, quiet, unmoving, asking you to meet it with your full attention. The neurological weight of the hand. Writing by hand is not just slower, it's neurologically richer. The fine motor skills involved in forming letters activate regions of the brain tied to memory, emotion, and comprehension. Typing, by contrast, relies on repetitive muscle patterns that require far less cognitive engagement. This is why handwritten notes are easier to remember. The brain literally encodes them differently. Seeing someone's handwriting is like hearing their voice through sight. The loops, pressure, spacing, these tiny variations carry personality. Research shows that recognizing a loved one's handwriting can trigger emotional bonding responses, including oxytocin release, the same hormone associated with trust and attachment. There's also the physical sensation. The resistance of pen on paper forces the mind to slow down. That friction acts as an anchor, grounding thoughts in the present moment. You don't just think the words, you feel them forming. The architecture of imperfection. Digital communication has a luxury paper never allowed, the backspace key. And while editing is useful, it also removes something essential, the trace of human vulnerability. When you write a letter, every word feels more deliberate because it can't vanish instantly. You're forced to confront your thoughts instead of endlessly refining them. Ink blots, crossed out sentences, uneven lines. These imperfections aren't mistakes. They're evidence of presence. They prove that a real person existed in a real moment, thinking and feeling in real time. Social media and messaging apps encourage curation. We present the cleanest version of ourselves, filtered, edited, optimized. A handwritten letter does the opposite. It reveals the unpolished self, and that rawness is what makes it powerful. Tangible artifacts in a virtual void. Digital storage feels permanent until it isn't. Accounts disappear, formats become obsolete, files corrupt. Our memories now depend on servers we don't control, maintained by companies that may not exist in a decade. This creates a subtle but constant anxiety. What if everything vanishes? Physical letters defy this fragility. A note written today can be held, read, and felt a century later. It becomes more than a message. It becomes a time capsule, a physical trace of a life, a relationship, a moment. In a world where digital records can be edited or erased, physical artifacts serve as honest witnesses to who we were. They carry not just words, but texture, scent, and the passage of time. The radical act of slowing down. In 2026, everything is optimized: productivity, communication, even emotions. Writing a letter disrupts that system. It requires time, attention, stillness. Sitting down with paper is a refusal to rush. It's choosing depth over efficiency, presence over performance. Try this. Replace one digital conversation per week with a handwritten note. It doesn't have to be long, just intentional. Over time, you'll notice something surprising. The relationship changes. It feels more grounded, more real. The love letter isn't a nostalgic relic, it's a survival tool. Because in an age where communication is instant but intimacy is fragile, tangible vulnerability might be the only way to preserve emotional depth. Ink slows us down, paper holds us accountable, and imperfection reminds us that connection was never meant to be flawless, only real. So, maybe the most radical thing you can do today is pick up a pen.